Hello everyone, Thirteene here, and tonight we're going to be playing another homebrew of mine I'm calling Izzet Miracles. Kind of want to call it hashtag blessed, but that seems a little pretentious and douchey, and so may as well go with the technical name. So what we're doing here is we're playing with the miracle cards, but we're going to be staying away from the typical terminus, and we're actually going to be running 14 miracle cards. Actually, 16 miracle cards, and the color is blue and red. So this deck is a homebrew of mine, but we're actually leaning on a deck that already exists in Legacy. I know Mengucci has played a lot of it, and that deck is Vial Smasher the Fierce. So what that deck is doing is it's actually taking the commander card, Vial Smasher here on the far left, which is not in our deck because it is not modern legal. And whenever you cast your first spell each turn, Vial Smasher deals damage equal to that spell's converted mana cost to an opponent chosen at random. In 1v1, that means that we're going to be hitting our opponent for the converted mana cost. And the effect of a miracle card is you get to cast it for significantly cheaper, but it still retains its giant mana cost for the trigger of the card. So we're actually going to be using the new Ravnica card here, the Erratic Cyclops, the 4 mana bulk rare that is a 0/8, very hard to deal with, basically needs to be Path to Exile in Modern. And it has a pretty similar effect. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it gets +X/+O until the end of turn, where X is that spell's converted mana cost. So unfortunately, because of the way that Miracle works, we're not going to be able to take advantage of this card's effect of being able to get it multiple times a turn, but we will actually be able to smack our opponent with trample damage pretty hard. And because that is our primary game plan, we also have Delver of Secrets playing a dual role in this deck. First of all, at the beginning of our upkeep, we get a look at the card and we can reveal it. So what this allows us to do is we can look at our top card, and if it's something like an Opt or an Erratic Cyclops and we don't need it, we can crack a fetch land to shuffle our deck and then hopefully draw a miracle card. For that reason, we probably need more fetch lands in this deck. I didn't really want to go off color. Fetch lands end up driving the price of a deck up, and wanted to try to keep it looking at least a little bit low, despite the fact that we're on Jaces and Scalding Tarns. But I'm not sure if that means we actually want to flip our Delvers or not. Delver's going to be playing an important role here of tempoing our opponent out, so more than likely we will be flipping them, but we can tell a little bit more as the game goes on. But Delver of Secrets here doing two things that are very unique for this deck. Kind of going back to the deck view, our mana curve is just insane. We have an entire column of 1-drops, and then we go immediately up to 4-drops, and then everything else is above 4. So we're going to be relying pretty heavily on just drawing those miracle cards. Some of those cards being Thunderous Wrath, 1 mana, 5 damage, target creature or player. The fantastic thing about this is with Erratic Cyclops out, Erratic Cyclops will end up getting +6/+O for the cost of the Thunderous Wrath, and then we also get hit our opponent for 5. So that's 11 damage off of 1 mana, assuming we have Cyclops out. Temporal Mastery here. Again, Cyclops is going to get +7/+O for casting this, and we get another turn at the low cost of 1 and a blue. And then Vanishment is kind of our spot removal for any non-land permanent. This could probably be better. We're just running it to see how it works out. For single blue, it's going to do a lot. And for 5 mana, it's not unheard of that we cast this. It also time walks our opponent by putting a permanent on top of their deck. If we end up getting this early, we might take their only creature and put it on top. Then they have to redraw that, replay it. So there's some power there. Vanishment is one that I'm not necessarily as stoked about. Then, to help enable this strategy, we have Jace the Mind Sculptor. We're only running him as a 2-of. Our curve is very high, so Jace is going to be there so that we can stack our deck with Brainstorm, put 2 miracles back on top of our deck. Opt is going to allow us to scry a card away if it's not a miracle and draw on our opponent's turn. And Street Wraith is going to allow us to draw on our opponent's turn for 2 life, which means we're not going to have to put a lot of mana in order to enable this strategy. So kind of going back to the deck here, this is going to be a pretty unique one because our 1-drops have Bonfire of the Damned, which is technically X cost. It needs to be higher up. Also kind of our board clear. Jace, Erratic Cyclops are big finishers. Delver's going to help us tempo and help out with the burn strategy if we end up needing to just burn our opponent because we can't stick a Cyclops. We have the ability to redraw 7 cards with Reforge the Soul. This deck's going to do some interesting things. I'm expecting its power level to be about a 5 or a 6. We are doing some very powerful things. We're running a Delver, and we have a grand total of 10 cards that don't flip it. Sorry, 14 with Street Wraith. So we're going to have a fairly active Delver. We're going to get a lot of intelligence off the Delver. Like, this should allow us to actually go and do some stuff here. So, yeah, let's go ahead and pop into our game. Again, so right now, as far as our mana base goes, running the check lands, the number of times that we want to actually cast one of our 1 mana spells on turn 1 is very low, and we're running a lot of basics because we have Blood Moons on the side. Blood Moon strategy should help our matches that are going a little bit slower, opponents that are interacting a little bit too much, but yeah, let's see how we do here. Looks like opponent won the die roll. And we have a turn 1 Delver and only 1 Miracle in hand, and that 1 Miracle in hand can clear away a bunch of little stuff if our opponent's on that game plan. So we'll go ahead and keep that. Bonfire is Miracle for X, and Bonfire's not going to be relevant against the Miracle deck, but looks like we actually get to play against our sister deck. So go ahead and lead on Delver here. Perfectly okay getting Path, ramped us up into our Miracles. I also need to be sure to set a step on our stop on our draw step so that we can bluff our Miracles. So Delver showing us a Erratic Cyclops. We'll not reveal that. Go ahead and put down, move to our main step. Chip in for 1 here. I'd prefer to wait to opt until after we have the Erratic Cyclops active, so I'm actually just going to run out the other Delver here. It's significantly worse versus... Okay, yeah, perfectly fine with opponent countering that. That is not our game plan here. It's worse versus Terminus, but if we can put pressure on our opponent, it can do some stuff. Wall of Omens, which means they're probably on the older build. We actually might just be playing blue-white, not Miracles. Will not reveal a mountain. Draw the mountain. What I was saying though is Bonfire actually deals damage to all of the creatures and planeswalkers the opponent controls. So we're okay running out our Delver and not having it get splatted here. There might be some argument to try to go for Thunderous Wrath and kill their Wall of Omens at end step, but I'm okay to run this out. We're eventually going to be getting some seriously powerful card draws, and the more mana we have, the more likely that's going to happen. So having fetch lands there would have meant that I could have fetched away the mountain that we didn't need off the Delver, so really think you need to be more on the fetch land planned. Lightning Bolt. I will reveal Lightning Bolt. Really don't care if opponent knows that we have that. Now we have a 3-2 that's probably going to get pathed. There's the path, as expected. Go ahead and get another blue source. And then in our main 2, we're going to run out the Erratic Cyclops and see if they have another removal spell for it. This should be a possible opponent actually reads it. Perfectly happy with that Field of Ruin. This time I'm going to grab the mountain. Likely not relevant, but now we can also bolt. Alright, so we can Bonfire for 2. That won't really do anything. I believe that we have enough mana that we want to start opting in our opponent's turn now. We'll be able to cast any of the cards that we draw twice over, so... Do not need more lands. Oh boy, all the lands. Opponent's holding up mana here. I'm expecting a Restoration Angel. There it is. So currently hard casting Bonfire. We're looking like we're able to do it for 3. But need to draw something other than lands. We only have 23. Another consideration for this deck was think twice to be able to have 2 draws in the opponent's step. I was just expecting to see Street Wraith or Opt or something to help stack our deck. We've seen a lot of lands though. We are currently at 10, 11 lands. Our opponent has helped us out with 2, but... And I understand it's not statistically relevant, but without the Delver, I don't see the need to hold the fetch land anymore. I'd rather just make it less likely that we draw something. All right. Hopefully our opponent gets to the point that they start thinking they can activate the Colonnade. Alright, well our opponent has 4 cards in hand. I'm actually just going to opt here. I want to see a Thunderous Wrath to kill this Restoration Angel. Hello, Thunderous Wrath. Alright, so put this on top of the deck. We're going to draw it. It's the first card that we've drawn for turn, so now we're going to reveal Thunderous Wrath. And then we're going to Thunderous Wrath the Restoration Angel. Erratic Cyclops is going to get +6/+0. It's not going to do anything because it's our opponent's turn. But that stemmed the bleeding for a moment. Alright, so opponent either wanted to represent something. It's weird that they didn't counter and they have 4 cards in hand. I'm happy here to cast Jace and put Bonfire on top of our deck. They're gonna have to counter this. Yep, there's the negate. Probably need a non-zero number of Snapcasters in this deck. Our card quality has just been a little bit too low for this matchup. Alright, so what does Bonfire mean for us at this point? We currently have Bonfire for 4. But at sorcery speed, I don't think it's going to get much better than that. I'd prefer that they have to blow a counter here. Also means that we're going to have a very big Erratic Cyclops here. If they don't counter this, we could potentially kill them. Here's Settle? Okay. And cracking the fetch land here means that we're going to be on a 2-turn clock from this colonnade as opposed to 3. I'm perfectly okay not cracking the Scalding Tarn at this point. That stop and draw is something I usually don't have, and apparently I'm struggling with. Oh, that... I should have been able... Oh, I need to stop in my end step. So currently bolting the colonnade here in their begin combat, because if they have to tap it to counter, it means that I won't be able to attack this turn. Looking a little bad for us, though. And then we're one shot away from dying, so just going to take our best out here and get another land. And Cyclops won't do it. Alright, GG's opponent. So, sideboarding here. Blood Moons are going to take away their land win condition. Ral is going to allow us to actually grind out. Ricochet Trap is 4 mana. If they cast a blue spell, we can change the target, changing the target to itself or Ricochet Trap to counter the spell. And then this Lightning Bolt looks a little out of place. I really wasn't sure if I wanted to have 4 bolts. Bolt is a very good magic card, and it felt like something that I probably want to have 4 of in my 75. I didn't know when I'd be taking it in or leaving it out. As far as cuts, Reforge the Soul will have both players draw 7 cards. Not really a fan of that when we're actually trying to trade cards here. Banishment is looking significantly better. Devastation Tide probably looking worse. This is going to pick up all non-land permanents. So that means that they're just going to be able to pick up their Wall of Omens, replay it, pick up their Resto Angel, give them a little bit more opportunity to time it better. As far as last cuts, Bonfires actually don't feel like they do a whole lot, and Lightning Bolt can pressure a Jace, force them to actually Fate Seal as opposed to Brainstorm. So that's looking pretty decent. Another considerable option here is Mindbreak Trap if they cast multiple spells in a turn, but our opponent looks to be on the old Supreme Verdict, Wall of Omens Resto Angel build, so that's probably not as good. They're not going to be trying to win counter wars here. And we'll go ahead and take the play. So this hand gives us a Bolt, an Opt, Temporal Mastery. We have an Erratic Cyclops. I'd prefer to see Delver, and we do have one miracle. We have 2 miracles, but I'm okay to hang on to these miracles. This is going to be one thing that our deck struggles with, is actually having those miracles in our opening hand and not being able to mulligan well. Hey, look at that Delver. That's a beautiful card right there. When I have Delver out, I definitely want to have more fetch lands, and we don't need that number of basic planes or basic islands. Currently running 8 islands. We could probably cut 4 of those for 4 more blue fetches. I will happily reveal an Opt. And then I don't want to miss land drops against the control deck, so I'm actually going to Opt here on our turn. It does give them something to counter, but I would really like to find a land, like a Scalding Tarn. Alright, so I don't want to Opt. The most I could hit is a Thunderous Wrath. I'm going to go ahead and attack in, see if they path. Again, Opt to find another land is probably our game plan here. Alternatively, actually, almost all of our miracles we want to cast on their turn, so I'm going to Opt during their turn. don't really care about Jace right now. He's a very strong card, but I want to see a miracle, and I can't even cast Jace at the moment. Not revealing Banishment. That's why we have our stop there. Opponents representing Cryptic. I don't believe the Resto version was playing Cryptic. I could be out of date in that information, though. And then, do I want to run out Cyclops here? It'll give them a counter target, but next turn I can cast Vanishment if they end up countering and then drop a Planeswalker, so I think that's going to be my best line here. No counter. Restoration Angel is fine. Circle of Protection red. That is some spicy tech, opponent. So Circle of Protection is going to make it so that some of the bigger effects from red don't do anything. Alright, so Sulfur Falls means 5 mana. I believe what I want to do here is actually attack in with the Erratic Cyclops. It won't be able to trample over, though. So I can try to wait until I can multi-spell. That's probably going to be the best use of my time. Alternatively, I can Vanishment now on the Restoration Angel or the Circle, probably the Circle. The Circle will force them to hit the Cyclops. I actually think I'm just going to counter check pre-combat. None of those actually seem that good. They're going to end up preventing the damage from the Erratic Cyclops, but this will essentially time walk them for a turn and leave them with 2 mana or remove a counter from their hand. Yep, Mana Leak is fine, which means I'm going to swing in with the Erratic Cyclops. They don't have anything on the ground that I care about, and it'll force them to use their mana in case they want to opt. If they path me, that's fine as well. Nope. Okay, prevents the damage. Again, completely expected that, but it did tap them out. Here, I believe I just want an island. Street Wraith. So I definitely want a Street Wraith on their turn. I'm currently at 6 mana, which means I can Thunderous Wrath. It'd force 2 mana. They'd Field of Ruin me, leaving me up with Bolt. I actually think I want to hold up Thunderous Wrath for their end step, assuming I don't actually see anything with Street Wraith I want to cast. And then cycling Street Wraith here feels correct in case I see something I actually want to cast. Yep. So I will be taking another turn after this one. Unless our opponent decides to counter it, which they don't. Oh, they're just letting Cyclops resolve first. Hey Kyle, I didn't see you post. You're welcome to join me in Discord if you'd like. Alright, so this is actually some awesome tech from our opponent. The way that Miracle works is when it's the first card that I've drawn for turn, I can draw it and put it into my hand. Then I reveal it and I get the trigger to cast it. So our opponent can actually remove this from my hand and I won't be able to cast it for the Miracle cost. Although I believe I already cast it. I paid the mana, so this should be on the stack. Although I'm paying for the miracle trigger. Alright. Sounds good, Cal. Yep, so that's all good. I do not get my extra turn, but our opponent gave us a Jace. I am going to go ahead and bolt the V-click. It just represents a lot of damage that I don't want to have to deal with. This is to you, opponent. That's not actually correct. Oh well, that's fine. Alright, so Jace is definitely coming down. Alternatively, I could swing in. That's not going to do anything productive. So I do want to brainstorm, or do I actually want to tick up the... This is interesting. I can bounce the Restoration Angel, and then I'll at least get one more activation out of Jace. He's not representing a Celestial Colonnade, so I'm free and clear. I think I'm just going to take the pressure off the table at the current moment. I still get one more activation out of Jace minimum, plus this leaves up Thunderous Wrath for next turn. Okay, so I did get my extra turn. Opponent did not deal with... The opponent might need to do comp for that. Because that's not how that's supposed to work. Okay, and this is beautiful. So I actually get to put 2 miracles back on my deck, and I believe that's actually just going to be Temporal Mastery on top, Thunderous Wrath underneath it. I will run out my land, although more than likely I'm not going to use it, and I'll get out my Delver because that means he's definitely flipping. So with this... Oh, I didn't have enough mana to Thunderous Wrath. I miscounted. I should have cracked that before activating Jace. Oh, well, that's fine. I will reveal my extra turn. I will cast my extra turn. Although I have to wait for the trigger. Otherwise, the mana goes away. Cast Temporal Mastery. Erratic Cyclops becomes massive. So opponent does have Cryptic Command. Counterbounce, perfectly fine with that. Go to main step, swing in with the Cyclops. They do still have Restoration Angel here. It prevents the damage, so they can't cast the Resto now. Which means Jace is fine. I wouldn't have to crack this and actually hard cast Thunderous Wrath against it. So knowing I have a Thunderous Wrath on top of my deck means that I have the ability to save the Scalding Tarn if I want Thunderous Wrath or try to get something else. And opponents force me to shuffle. That's a good play on their part. But we are a Miracles deck and they are not, and we have an active Jace. So I want to brainstorm first this time, see if I have to make any considerations for mana costs in my hand. Ricochet Trap is fantastic. That'll allow me to counter something for a red mana. With the Circle of Protection out, these Erratic Cyclopses get significantly worse, so bad I'm actually just going to shuffle them away. I currently have 6, 7 mana. 6 mana means Delver and Thunderous Wrath, or opt into a Miracle. I'm good to get a tap fetch land here because they have shown us Settle the Wreckage so far. Gonna run that out. Just put out a bunch of pressure for the opponent to have to deal with. And then we know one of the 3 cards in hand is a Restoration Angel. If they run it out, it's just going to eat Thunderous Wrath. See if Thunderous Wrath eats a counter spell, or if we lose Jace here. Oh, that is fantastic. They even just gave us our mana for Ricochet Trap, so we can counter if they try to get rid of our Thunderous Wrath here. Kind of missequence from opponent, but I mean, we're doing something very unique here. I cannot fault them for not understanding how our deck works. So 3 unknowns in hand. One of them is not a 2-mana counterspell unless the Serum Visions or Draw a Step found it. I'd love to find another Vanishment. Not going to reveal Ral to our opponent, but I would love to cast Ral. So draw 3 cards. Put back Jace and Thunderous Wrath on top so we can Thunderous... Actually, no, we're going to do Thunderous Wrath and then Jace so we can opt away the Jace. And then run out Ral and see if opponent has an answer. If they do, we've got Ricochet Trap. They do not. So this was actually a misplay. I forgot that Ral makes us draw the cards on top of our deck. So put a card into your hand, rest into the graveyard. We'll take the Thunderous Wrath. And then ship it on back to opponent. Alright, so Restoration Angel looks a little bad for us here. That's going to be able to pick off the Jace, and we sent our second one to the graveyard already. In our current match, we are 0-1. I should probably update that. Detention Sphere. Detention Sphere is going to get around our other Planeswalkers. So what I want to do here is opt and see if I can find an answer for this Restoration Angel. Street Wraith. Alright, so it looks like both of our walkers are going down at the current moment. And Lyra is a pretty tough one too. Alright, was feeling pretty good here. That went very poorly. Our Ricochet Trap only hits a spell, and Detention Sphere got around that. And that was our backup plan for everything there. Alright, do not want to reveal Scalding Tarn. We will play the Scalding Tarn for turn. Then, let's go ahead and swing in with the Erratic Cyclops, see if they block. Okay, I assume that was too good to be true. So we're going to go ahead and try to burn Lyra here. Which means that they have to pop the Circle of Protection and tap out. That doesn't really mean too much at the current moment. Yep, so they're fogging the 6 damage. Some of the Spice Rack is actually stopping. We would have been able to attack our opponent for lethal a long time from now if the Circle wasn't out. We even had to get rid of a couple of our Erratic Cyclopses. And they had a second Lyra. Okay. So, our opponent is empty-handed, looking for the pickup all non-land permanents, unless we sideboarded that, which we did. So we have Vanishment as an out. We also have more Thunderous Wraths. Wow, and whiffing pretty hard. Alright, so Vanishment is revealed. We're going to flip our Delver. We will reveal Vanishment as the draw. We will get rid of the Detention Sphere, although it's only going to be temporarily. Oh, nope, don't want to do this yet. Wait for the trigger. Actually, can we just kill our opponent here? So it's going to be 5. I can hard cast Ricochet Trap, repoint it at opponent. That's going to be 9. 12. No, it's not enough. Alright, so we'll take Ral. Besides, I could activate Circle in response to me bouncing the circle, so... Alright, Detention Sphere goes back on top of deck, which means we get another turn here. Ral is immediately going to nuke this Lyra to the ground. And knowing that we have a Detention Sphere in our future, I kind of want to leave Insectile Aberration back to block. I believe that's the end of our Vanishments. Okay, yeah, that's fine. So we can still Thunderous Wrath, we can take extra turns. Ral is probably our strongest win condition still left in the deck, though, so this isn't looking great. I'm going to need to draw a way to protect him, and Ricochet Trap won't do it. Oh, opponent shuffled away the Detention Sphere. That's interesting. And that actually does us very well. So we're going to change the target of Path to Exile to take out the Restoration Angel. Okay, I'm thoroughly enjoying this deck. It's not going surprisingly well, but I am enjoying what's happening so far. Alright, second Delver is great. Do have to be careful not to deck ourselves. Ricochet Trap will go to hand. Run out Delver. So Ral's ultimate is at -8, and it deals damage whenever we cast an instant or sorcery. So we should be able to kill them since the emblem is colorless, not red. Geist. Geist isn't going to be overly effective. I do want to cycle here, though. Doesn't do anything. Alright, Lightning Bolt. So I'm going to reveal the Lightning Bolt to the Delver. Oh, I need to stop and upkeep if I want to crack my fetch. Okay. Let's go ahead and plus, see what's on top of our deck. We'll take the second Ral. And with the Ricochet Trap and no cards in hand, that means that we can leave a blocker back for the Angel token. Detention Sphere. Alright, so that might just kill us, because if they take out the... Alright, that was a misplay from opponent. If they had hit the Insectile Aberration and attacked in, we wouldn't have a flying blocker. We're at 4, it would have killed us. Okay, and then just to make sure I don't mess this up, I'm actually just going to Ricochet Trap here. Opponent has no cards in hand, so this should give our Cyclops +5/+0, killing Geist. Interesting. So I do actually have to change the target. Just go ahead and hit Wall of Omens. Shouldn't make a difference. Alright, we do have our opponent on a 4-turn clock here. But being a control deck, it's getting a little iffy. We're also running out of cards in deck. Ooh. Alright, so Thunderous Wrath is going to basically be guaranteed to resolve here. That's going to deal 5 damage, and then Ricochet Trap doesn't work against Detention Sphere. They have no attacking creatures. Yeah, we'll take the Wrath. And then ship it on back. Temporal Mastery is interesting, but I think Thunderous Wrath is just the better card. We have enough mana to cast both Thunderous Wraths here, so it might be correct just to counter-check them. Oh, yep, forgot about that. Should have taken the Temporal Mastery. Alright, well this is creature removal if they happen to draw another one. Boarding into the Lyra plan. Actually, with Resto main board, they might have actually just kept Lyra main board. But it's definitely making me want these Devastation Tides. They have enough basics. Blood Moon still doesn't do anything. Ravenous Trap is going to take away their graveyard, which they're not abusing with Snapcaster Major as Kanta so far. This Circle of Protection has been incredibly annoying, though. So Ral gets a plus and then minus. Our opponent should actually be pretty close to dead here unless they have another Detention Sphere. Sorry about that noise. Had some struggles with my drink. Opponent is tanking pretty hard. We're running a little low on time. This Circle of Protection has just been backbreaking. I don't even think it does very much versus burn. But you know that's why it's in there. Snapcaster's probably targeting Cryptic Command to bounce Ral? Or probably bounce Delver since it's our tap-down team, bounce Ral. Yep. Alright, so we have 6, 7, 8 mana, which means Cyclops or Thunderous Wrath. Let's just go ahead and kill Snappy now and make sure that there are no shenanigans with another Cryptic Command returning it to hand. So we're getting very close to dying, though, from mill, if our opponent has another answer to temporarily deal with Ral. Okay, definitely taking Mastery this time around. And if our opponent is actually on a blank, that's going to be game. I will pay 3 for Mana Leak, thank you very much. Opponent's doing that because we are low on time at this point. But if they don't see the Circle of Protection, then we're going to get a pretty quick win out of the Cyclops, so I'm alright with that. As far as changes, I kind of want the Devastation Tide here. We're closer to milling. I don't want to give them more gas for the Reforged Soul. So Circle of Protection is going to make it so that they can deny the damage. So the card in question here is Circle of Protection Red. The next time a red source of your choice would deal damage to you this turn, prevent it. I can kill their creatures, but I can't do anything about burning them into the face. So I actually could have killed him with Thunderous Wrath a little while back, but he prevented the damage, and I forgot about Circle of Protection. I honestly haven't seen this since I used to play back in 7th edition. It used to be a fringe sideboard card, but it just doesn't do a whole lot anymore. Bonfire also is a little bit more tempting, knowing they have all the angels. For 6 mana, I could do a one-sided board clear. As far as cuts, it's probably going to be just maybe 2 Cyclopses, and I saw so many lands. Maybe just a land and only bring in 1 Bonfire. Opponent is getting the play this turn. We're actually looking like a Flooded Delver hand. And I'm going to be playing a little quick, so I'm possibly not going to explain every line here. Yeah, Circle of Protection is some interesting spice. Ruined Halo. So if he actually correctly calls Insectile Aberration, that means, yep, I'm never going to flip this Delver. I could have potentially cracked the fetch there and cycled. Street Wraith is fine, though. I'm going to try to draw a Thunderous Wrath during their turn. Wait, why didn't I get a land? Oh, I think I clicked on Island. Trying to play a little too quick. If he's going to flash in with Resto, I'm just going to bolt it. Right now I'm thinking my best line is going to be flip a Vanishment. Actually, that means I have to turn these off. If I flip a Vanishment and then put Ruined Halo on top of their deck. Hey, look at that! Ugh. So hard to actually work the triggers in this deck. See if he has a V-click. Cryptic Command to counter, bouncing. Oh, counter draw? That's fine. So, Insectile Aberrations will not do damage anymore, so that was kind of a blowout on our part. But we can always draw into Thunderous Wrath, so that's fine. Also means that Resto can't attack us. And we'll see if they have their Circle of Protection. It's just going to be a path. Yeah, that makes sense too. I have been pretty impressed with this deck, though. It has a lot of unique lines, and it does a lot of very powerful things for cheap. It does feel like the deck is a little imbalanced. It could probably use some more tuning. But everything I've seen so far has been pretty good. Kind of just running stuff out, like we're behind on clock and just need to start seeing things. Delver's also going to make it so that I can see the top card, although that means I should have put out Scalding Tarn. Just trying to play really fast. Not going to reveal that. See if they're holding counter magic. They probably have Mana Leak. They've shown it to us multiple times. Cryptic is fine. Opponents still can't attack us, and we're just 2 draw steps away from being able to burn their face if we see Thunderous Wraths. Ah, crap. I need to stop there. Did not want to draw that island. That's why the Scalding Tarn was out. Alright, there's a Circle of Protection red. Starting to feel a little bit of pain on my side. We're going to have to... Ooh. Don't want to reveal that. Do want to draw it. Go ahead and just ship it back. They're probably going to take the... Yep. So going to opt here, see if we can find ourselves a Miracle. Don't need the Cyclops. Into Bolt. Bolt will actually save one of the Insectiles. So what this does is Detention Sphere is going to exile it and everything else with a similar name. By bolting it, this one stays on the battlefield. Opponent is also aware that I'm very close to killing them if they don't actually stay on defense. Not going to reveal Street Wraith. Happy to draw it. Going to try to draw on their turn. So currently I have 6 coming at me, 6. Street Wraith is going to make this so that I'm on a 2-turn clock, so I'm just going to pop it now. Sulphur Falls is not the card you want to see. Delver reveals Ricochet Trap. Ricochet Trap isn't going to do it, so let's go ahead and reveal and then crack. This is going to shuffle our deck, hopefully show us a new card. Going to go for actual mana we can use and draw a Ricochet Trap. Alright, GG's opponent. Circle of Protection was just so bad. It just really countered exactly what we want to do with our game plan. If our opponent wasn't on that tech specifically for burn, we pretty easily could have taken it. If they just had any of the life gain strategies similar to Timely Reinforcements, we could have easily just Thunderous Wrath one more time and taken the win. But Circle of Protection, meaning that our Cyclops couldn't attack in for 9. At one point he was an 11-8, is just so bad. Like, stopping the 6 damage and then preventing and fogging the damage for 2 mana repeatedly is pretty painful. Alright, so what do we have here? We have a turn 2 Bolt starting to get into Jace with a single Miracle. I'm alright to give that a shot. It's not a fantastic hand, but we have a Bolt in case there's an unfair strategy relying on something. Opponent is mulliganing to 5 pretty aggressively, so I'm actually getting the read of Tron here. And I'm going to take the upkeep step out as we don't currently have a Delver. Okay, so blue Serum Visions could be Control, Storm, anything along those lines, definitely spell-based. Go ahead and play our Delver. Oh, I should have played Silverfall so I could bolt. That was a misplay. I'm going to put our upkeep step back, though. Although we don't have a fetch land. Yeah, this deck was not built correctly, but it is a fun brew, so we're going to see what we can do with it. Not going to reveal a Delver. Go ahead and run out this Delver. Seeing as they're on basic island, doesn't make me think Death Shadow polluted Delta means it could potentially be fairies. I know a lot of people have been trying Sultai lists recently with Liliana, Goyf, and Snapcaster. It's been tried in the past, but people are trying to make a resurgence with it. Watery Grave untapped on their main step is looking more like Death Shadow. They're going to take Jace here, pretty assuredly. Either that or they're going to be scared that they don't know what the Erratic Cyclops is doing. Marsh Flats could be Esper. We might have a Lingering Souls in our future. Yep, there goes Jace, by far the most powerful card in our hand. Already at 13, Esper. Esper Death Shadow seems like a bit of a non-bow. Yeah, Fatal Push is fine. Kind of just want the intelligence on what's on top of our deck anyway. Not reveal that. Gonna go ahead and get our 1-chip damage in. Vapor Snag is not nearly as popular as it used to be, but they could potentially be running it and save themselves 1 damage. And then out comes Erratic Cyclops. See what you got, opponent. It's very possible we kill you next turn. There's the Death Shadow. Opt is fine. I'm actually quite happy with Opt. So timing here. I can bolt the Death Shadow. They've got to have Stubborn Denial or a Street Wraith. I could just attack in with both of these, make that a 2/8. It'll get blocked by the Death Shadow. I think opting on their instep's going to be best bet here. They're going to have to do some real work to get it over the Erratic Cyclops, 8 toughness. And all of our miracles cost 2 mana, which means I can bolt, opt, and miracle if I see one. And I'm just going to let this go through. I'm perfectly okay taking 6 if they do anything to change the life totals, which they're not. Actually, my opt here. Let's see what we can find. Reforge the Soul. Alright, so I'm going to put this on top of the deck and hold control. Reveal Reforge the Soul. I want to bolt, but I don't think I can. We're still taking damage from the Death Shadow. I've got to hold on to the bolt. I could have probably profitably blocked this Death Shadow, but you never know when you're casting Opt into a miracle. Opponent's probably trying to figure out if 7 new cards are going to be worth it. If target permanent you control gets protection of the color of your choice until end of turn. If you have 5 or less life, instead you and each permanent gain protection from that color. I don't care. They're probably going to call blue thinking I might have an unsummon of some kind. Or not realize that we've already declared blocks and call red. Oh, that was actually kind of bad. Oh well, opponent has to do something pretty good, otherwise we're just going to hit them with the Insectile Aberration and be holding up a chump blocker and do another lethal shot. If they're Esper, that means they've likely got Path to Exile. They've already shown us a Fatal Push. We pitched a Lingering Souls for them, so they actually just might Lingering Souls here. Although if they take the shock, they have no fear of Bolt. Might be a Timely Reinforcements. Okay, path on that is fine. I don't think our opponent realizes that we just drew so many cards. And they didn't even pretend like they had a Stubborn Denial. Showing them this means that they might be a little bit more conservative with their life total in the future, but I'd rather just end it while they're tapped out. Alright, so for opponent's deck, they obviously have some Path to Exiles and effects. They are blue to an extent. Ricochet Trap is looking a little interesting. Reforge the Soul, probably not what we want to do despite kind of winning that one for us. Bonfire seems hilarious. Thunderous Wrath seems hilarious. Devastation Tide is a good way to get around Lingering Souls tokens. Vanishment seems like it's one of our worst miracles. Bolt seems good. Now the only consideration is, do we want to bring in Blood Moon? Blood Moon means probably Devastation Tide coming out, as well as a Ricochet Trap. That seems fine. I don't think I care about the Lingering Souls tokens all that much. The Erratic Cyclops is trample. Opponent boarded pretty quick for not knowing what we were doing. Okay, so we're on the draw. Very slow hand, but we have 4 mana and opt. I'll give it a shot. This can't be correct. This is likely 100% a mulligan, but I don't believe this deck mulligans very well. Although an Island and a Delver is probably a keepable 2-card hand. Our opponent's going to try to do some work on themselves to get their life total low before committing anyway, so this gives us some time to make our land drops. And I want to get my red source in case we top deck a Thunderous Wrath. I have no intention to opt without seeing a miracle, so no reason to cast that. Opponent's potentially on Thoughtseize now? Nope. A little surprised I haven't seen a Thought Scour from them. Milling themselves seems pretty productive for their deck. Also expecting Gurmag Angler, but Angler might be a switch for the Lingering Souls. Mildly confused by what our opponent's doing, but... Hey, there's the Thought Scour. Adonto Vanguard seems like a fantastic output for life, for Death Shadow. That's spicy. Opponent, you have my respect. There's the fish. So, seeing as we have the 2-mana bounce all non-land permanents, I'm starting on Street Wraith as opposed to Opt. Less likely to see the card I want to see, but it does mean that I have the opportunity to cast a 2-mana spell if I see it. And I can run out Delvers. Yeah, that's probably the most correct thing I can do. They're holding up 1 spot removal, so this means that Delver can jump block if need be. Or they're holding that in case they see a Death Shadow. Well, there's a spot removal. Getting these out of their hand also means that the Erratic Cyclops is more likely to survive. Unlike Death Shadow, Gurmag Angler won't get any bigger, so Erratic Cyclops will block for days. They have to have push or path to get rid of it. Although, this is why we build our deck this way. And we're just going to go after Fish. He's the biggest threat at the moment. Oh, they have the Stubborn Denial. Interesting. So they must not be on Stubborn Denial. That's fine, though. We'll just make our land drop, ship it back. Not having the second red source is making me a little worried to go for a miracle here, but I'd prefer not to take this damage, so just still going to go for it. Yep, Thunderous Wrath would have been nice, but can't make use out of it. Street Wraith is just going to lower our life total when we're under pressure. Alright. So, I can run out Erratic Cyclops and potentially be dead on board if they have a fetch land Thoughtseize. I can try to opt into a miracle on their turn. I think chump blocking for a single turd with threatening Thunderous Wrath on top decking a land is our best play to win situation here. If they have the path to exile or push, we're just dead, but we can't really play around that at this point. Yep, okay, so go ahead and grab a land. We're conceding though. I don't want to reveal my hand. Okay. Would have drawn into a Cyclops, into a Tarn. Yeah, we would have lost either way. And it looks like we did actually take both of these out. Given the fact that they have board protection, I'm a little more inclined to bring that in. Also, a little more inclined to take the Bonfire out. Bonfire killing our opponent might have some upside, but Thunderous Wrath just feels better. Yeah, let's just go ahead and ship it back. Alright, so this is a bolty hand with a Street Wraith to enable. I'm alright with that. Alright, so when your opponent leads on Street Wraith like that, it typically means their hand's not great. It's better to leave this as a combat trick. This typically means they're fishing for lands or a cantrip or something to enable their current hand. So that is a good sign. Ah, that's unfortunate. When building this deck, I did consider Simian Spirit Guide, but it just didn't feel like it was worth it. Adanto Vanguard. Alright, so I'm on Cycle Street Wraith here. No miracle. Let's see what we draw. Okay, so Tarn's going to set up Double Bolt, which feels alright. That does seem very spicy in Death Shadow decks, though. So I'm going to take the damage here with the intent being that I can Lightning Bolt them or the Adanto Vanguard or a potential Death Shadow that comes down if they try to drop a 1/1. Although that means that, yep, that Shadow will be whatever size they decide to pay for. Not looking great. Oh, have to crack. Derp to derp. Should have done that on Instep. Also probably should have bolted when they activated, but not used to playing around this card. Being able to just pay 4 life to make this big is kind of annoying. And I might just be dead here. So, 3, they can only make that a 9/9, so I'm taking 12. Definitely taking a Bolt. Potentially a Cyclops if they think they need a longer game, but they are definitely in the beatdown side. Yep, there's the Bolt. Also means they probably have removal for the Cyclops. And another Shadow is pretty painful. Hey, look at that. That's why we put Miracles in our deck. Hashtag blessed. Yeah. Ooh, that's bad. Okay, so they pay 4 life. Those are 9/9s. GG's opponent. Let's see. Yeah, Bolt. Alright, well that was pretty painful. Death Shadow decks have always been pretty good at causing some issues for janky decks. They just put so much pressure on and make it very hard to interact with. We are currently 0-2, but we did put up some fights. Like, we had some very close games there. This deck definitely does have legs. Just because I'm curious, opponent's Disdainful Stroke would have hit probably Bonfire on the stack, but all but 11 cards in our deck. So around 30-ish cards could be hit by that Disdainful Stroke. Yeah, it's some pretty good sideboard cards. Circle of Protection and Disdainful Stroke. Both hit us pretty hard and they're not super common. Alright, so we are on the draw, which means we're probably not going to Miracle very quickly. We do have one way to enable. Yeah. Again, I'm still not sure what I'm supposed to be keeping with these hands. I still don't even know if it's correct to flip the Delver or not, and we're playing Dredge. So, Devastation Tide looking pretty sweet. Reforge the Soul looks horrible. Alright, so Scalding Tarn is probably correct here, just so that we can cast Banishment or Thunderous Wrath off the top. Opponent has hit a Dark Blast, is going to make our Delvers terrible. Stinkweed Up means the engine is online. They can dredge 5. Thug means they can dredge 4. See if they have a Faithless Looting or a Cathartic Reunion. Reforge the Soul for the surprise win could be hilarious. Try to just mill them out if they overcommit too hard. Red means Cathartic Reunion, discarding Dredger and Prized Amalgam. So there's a Bloodghast, which means it's coming back next turn with the Prized Amalgam. Creeping Chill hits us. So next turn is going to be a pretty big board state. So Cycle Street Wraith and to kill Prized Amalgam is probably our best line at the moment. But they get untapped, Shriekhorn, Dredge 5. Another Creeping Chill means their Bloodghasts are almost hasty. This is potentially one of the best Dredge starts I've ever seen. Although they dredge Dackmore Salvage, which means they're missing lands. Alright, Bloodghast comes back. Delayed trigger on the Prized Amalgams. Wow, and a Faithless Looting. So they're going to dredge 5 and then at least 4. They hit another Creeping Shell and a Bloodghast. Ooh, boy. Really going to need to hit a Devastation Tide on our turn. We have 3 draws for it. Although that's hasty. I think we're going to have to take our beats from this Bloodghast. Yeah, they're turn 3 and 2/3 of the deck are down. And all those prized amalgam triggers. Okay, looking for Devastation Tide here. Found a Delver. Found another Delver. We're going to stop on their upkeep. Yeah, their upkeep seems best. And then we're going to have to opt into Devastation Tide or Bonfire for 1. Wouldn't do it. So yeah, Devastation Tide. Yes, I'm very dead. Alright, so opt. Thunderous Wrath won't do it. Delver won't do it, and I'm going to say GG's, although that one's not very heartfelt. Alright, so on the plus side, we get Ravenous Trap. If an opponent has 3 or more cards put into their graveyard from anywhere, we can cast it for free to exile their graveyard. So if their graveyard starts to get unruly, we can cast that for free, give Erratic Cyclops 4/0. As far as what we want to cut, Bonfire still seems pretty good if they're not that explosive. Thunderous Wrath feels like it loses a ton of value here. Delver still feels like it sets things up. Reforge the Soul does feel like you could technically mill them by surprise. Vanishment probably doesn't do much, so looking a little bit like that. Oh boy. Yep, not feeling great about this one. I considered putting Leylines in addition to the Ravenous Trap, but this felt more on flavor for casting things for free to make Giant Cyclops. Yeah, I guess 2 Moons are better than Thunderous Wrath. The thing is that they still get to cast Faithless Looting and Cathartic Reunion off of Blood Moon, and then they play out of their graveyard triggers, which means that if we can't keep their graveyard in check but still get a Blood Moon, we're probably going to die. They do have a lot of fast lands, but they can also cast probably 40% of their deck just off of red mana. Like, they don't even try to cast Narcomoebas for the most part. Our opponent did have Gemstone Mines, which means that they do consider casting it, but it's pretty bad. Well, we have a Piece of Hate and a Delver, so it does. Almost every single opponent I've seen on Dredge has misplayed their fetch lands, though. Like, keeping your triggers in check is all that Dredge has to do. The deck plays itself on Magic Online. It even tells you exactly where the triggers are at, but they almost never do it correctly. And then if they do get as an explosive a turn 2 as the one that we just saw, Ravenous Trap will definitely keep them held back. We can always Bonfire for 3 mana and clean out everything except for the Prized Amalgam, so it's a little bit of love. Do I want to show them Reforge the Soul? Sure, they can see it. We're not casting it. And they get their Dredge 5 right off the bat. Seems about right. Dredge Stinky. I guess I better set a stop in their draw. So they only have Faithless Looting and Loam. Don't really care about those. This looks like another Cathartic. Discarding Stinkweed. That's fine. They're going to dredge Stinkweed, Loam. Alright. This is when we Ravenous Trap. Sorry, opponent. There goes a third of your deck. But we're on 1 mana, so, I mean... Hey, look, there's another mana. We literally can't cast anything but Bonfire for 0 in our hand. Go, Delver! Go the distance! This deck could really use Snapcaster. Being able to Snapcaster in the traps from the sideboard seemed like they'd be very good. Conflagrate here probably going to kill our Delver, as it's the only pressure that we have. Devastation Tide also is going to return Shriekhorn to their hand and give them counters again so they can start milling. Conflagrate could also potentially just hit us for 6. We only saw 2 of their Creeping Chills, which means they hit 1 more, Bloodghast become active. Oh, that does Divided. Okay. Yep, not looking great. I want my land drop here, so despite the fact I could Miracle, I'm opting now. And we'll see if they hit another Conflagrate. Oh, they have no cards in hand, so they have to dredge the 3 Stinkweeds. It might have been incorrect to trap there, but we did get a lot of cards as opposed to getting the enablers. So I guess multiple Assassin's Trophies are common in Dredge. Hard casting Stinkweed, possibly. Yep, there's Stinky. Alright, so... Jace setting up Bonfire for 3 is probably my best line. I'm going to be taking at least 3 damage here, though. They still have another Conflagrate and another Creeping Chill. So I'd be taking 3. I'd be on the table for 3 from Creeping Chill whenever they mill it. If I played Jace and just Brainstorm, and they go after Jace, I could Devastation Tide, and they wouldn't be able to cast anything. That actually might be the best. Taking that shock is pretty painful right now, though. Alternatively, I could actually just run out Erratic Cyclops, and they won't be able to kill it. He'll be able to block. I take it all back. That's what I want to do. Cyclops seems like he can just end the game if I get Jace active the following turn. Because I'm only on the table for 1 here, and then they have to mill Conflagrate to even get 1 more. Creeping Chill for 3 more, so I'd be going to 3. Prized Amalgams. This also won't kill Bloodghast relevantly enough. And they did dredge Stinkweed, so... This deck could also use some life gain. I'm not sure if there's any I actually care about in blue or red, though. Oh. Okay. Yep. So take an extra turn followed by Bonfire should be lethal. So gonna go ahead and put Blood Moon down. Nope. Let's put Reforge down and then Yeah, that's probably correct. Alright, opponent. Let's see what you can do. You can do 1 to Jace, you can hit me for 1. Dredge 2 Narcomoebas, bringing back the prized amalgams, which means that my bonfire is going to be able to clear your board and probably kill you. Stinkweed defending will actually kill Cyclops, but he kind of needs to get in. Yeah, he doesn't know yet, but the game's over. It is potentially, he could dredge Loam, pick up 3 lands, and then conflagrate with a Creeping Chill, but this is where it goes south pretty quickly. Blood Moon Bonfire. Yeah, I wasn't going to fetch. Opponent, this is Trample. Oh well, that's fun. So, the nice thing about this is I get the Miracle Trigger now. So that goes onto the stack. Now I can fetch away the Blood Moon and get another land, and I'll actually have 4 mana to put into this. And what we learned on our last video for Sun and Moon is this XX is actually going to be the cost of the card, so I should actually get 9 power off of Erratic Cyclops here. Yep, he's a 9/8. And that's lethal. I like this deck. It's not good, but I like this deck. Alright, so is there anything in here that I actually want? The 3rd Blood Moon could be an argument. The additional Bolt could be an argument. Wrath could be an argument. But those are all just finishers. I think what we have is fine. Yeah, let's just run it back. Wouldn't be surprised if our opponent starts boarding differently. We looked a lot like a Storm deck the first time around. And we look very much like a Delver deck now. So Grixis Shadow, I think, is what this hand looks like in Legacy. Assuming this was Volcanic. Yeah, opponent mulliganing that hard is pretty common for Tron and Dredge. I probably should have gotten the read for Dredge off the mulliganing. They're just looking for an explosive hand. That game 1 was nuts, though. They mulliganed to 5, and they did that much damage to us. If you can't see, opponent just said so bad. So they must not have the best hand. But to be fair, you're playing against our Izzet Miracles deck. Like, there's some fun here, but it's not fantastic. And we are currently 1-1 versus Dredge. I'm so bad at updating the record. Loaming back a single fetch land. Not going to reveal an Erratic Cyclops. Probably should have actually ran out the Steam Vents on turn 1. I guess we did take out our Thunderous Wrath, but that's potential missequencing for our lands there. Yep, Creeping Chill's going to buy them just a little bit of time. Could also be possible that 2 life is more relevant than the ability to cast a Miracle on turn 1. Opponent's likely dredging again. Yep. Alright, I'm going to cycle Street Wraith now. No Miracle. Not going to reveal Blood Moon. We'll try to lock opponent out, though. They picked up a lot of fetch lands and didn't fetch out a basic, so that's going to be a little hard for them. Especially if they can't get their engine running. They're going to have to start going off of the trigger for that, which they didn't get. So they need to have Cathartic or Faithful Saluting in hand in order to even get anything into the graveyard. Otherwise, they're going 2 turns for drawing that or discarding. That might have not been correct. It's been a while since I played Dredge, though. Will reveal Devastation Tide, just gets a 3/2. I do not want to bounce all permanents since we were ahead on board. And then getting out our Cyclops means that we're basically just a miracle away from winning. Good miracle, not bad miracle. We have a high chance of a miracle. I don't know what terminology that is. Alright, so Bolt is 6, 2, 5. Still not lethal yet, so I'm going to hold on another turn. And then if they do happen to have anything, this Bolt's going to come in clutch instep. Otherwise, it's going to be 2 each, so that's 7. That should be lethal just off the bolts. Yay! Took the win off Dredge. Opponent definitely stumbled game 2, but I do think we deserve that. We put up a heck of a fight, and game 1 was just such a slaughterhouse. They did everything they wanted to. So going back to the deck list, what do I think I want to change so far? So the traps are kind of cute. The traps do feel significantly better with a Snapcaster Mage, but the miracles are terrible with a Snapcaster Mage. Having a Snapcaster for Bolt or Op seems pretty good. Street Wraith probably just needs to be, I want to say Think Twice or Radical Idea so that I can do it twice, but Street Wraith being able to Miracle on their turn 2 is a lot of the reason he has power, where Think Twice is going to be 2 mana from hand, 3 mana from the graveyard, and Radical Idea is 2 mana in both places, but you also lose a card. So I'm not sure how I feel about that one. Alright, so this hand doesn't have a Delver, or really any early interaction, but it does have a lot of our mana in it. I'm willing to give it a shot. This deck definitely has some potential, though. Delver's good because you get to see the top of your deck. I do think the more fetch lands will give this deck a lot more power to it. Reforge the Soul was originally a 4 of. Every time I've had the opportunity to cast it, it hasn't felt right. It doesn't trigger any of our miracles for us, and it also restocks the opponent's hand, who's probably emptying their hand faster because they're not waiting for miracle draws. Alright, looks like we have another control matchup. And seeing as I'm not going to do anything here, I'm going to run out the other tap land. The check lands in this deck were actually a really good inclusion. I know I've mentioned it before, but the fast lands are really good if your deck costs less than 3 mana or doesn't really care about what goes on turn 4. This deck actually doesn't care much about what goes on turn 1, but a lot of times we need to get to 4 mana for Jace, the Cyclops, potentially hard-casting or miracles. So there's a lot more functionality in getting the pain-free check land later in the game. Probably don't need all the steam vents, but again, I think I really want some fetch lands here. Alright, so they're going for the Field of Ruin. I am going to flip my mana here. And then I'm actually going to opt. Don't need another land, and I will cast Temporal Mastery, thank you very much. Alright, so go into our extra turn. Perfect time to slam Jace. Take our Brainstorm. And, alright, so definitely want a Thunderous Wrath, just get a little bit of a clock on. Probably just want to put the other Thunderous Wrath up, because we're getting another turn, which means that we can put Devastation Tide in if we need to protect Jace. Then move to our actual turn, reveal Thunderous Wrath, ping in the face. And I am so bad with that. Yes, I want to do the Miracle Cost. Some nuances to Magic Online. Alright, so this is my actual turn. I think I want to Brainstorm first, see what we're working with. Okay, so I want to put Devastation Tide below, Thunderous Wrath on top. Then that means I can cycle into the Thunderous Wrath, and then if I need to... Oh, I guess that means I can opt into the bounce if I need it. So, have enough mana. And let's see what opponent can do. We had a pretty strong turn 3 there. Opponent, you have counterspells? Nope. Alright, so brainstorming again. So our opponent put out Field of Ruin, very much intending to Field of Ruin. They also represented a Plains the turn 3 when they Field of Ruin, so I'm expecting the Erratic Cyclops to get pathed here to make a shuffle, potentially even Field of Ruin. I don't want to put anything back I'm not okay seeing go away, so that's probably going to be Street Wraith and a land, possibly 2 lands. Yeah, probably 2 lands. Then run that out, tapped. And we'll see how badly they want to shuffle. Undo, that's red. Opponent's pausing to read Erratic Cyclops, doing a little addition, figuring out miracles plus CMC equals lots of damage. Oh, and they're just on Hieroglyphic Illumination. So, probably pathing during our upkeep then. They are stock miracles, unlike our first opponent. Alright. Well, Lucky Terminus snagged there, but that's all fine. I think we're technically in the lead, and I think we have more powerful miracles in this matchup. Alright, so let's go ahead and brainstorm. We know we have a island on top, but I like the instant draw off the Street Wraith and Op, so I'm okay just floating the lands. And Vanishment is actually great on top. So Sulphur Falls comes in untapped. And let's see what opponent's got. So, Teferi? So what do I actually care about here? They're going to tuck my Jace, more than likely. And then I can Vanishment Teferi. Yeah, I think I'm alright with all of that. We are pretty far ahead at the given moment. Oh, they're drawing. Okay, well, as long as I only have 1 mana, let's go ahead and Street Wraith. So he's going to redraw Teferi, but that's fine. The sequencing here didn't matter. He was probably going to go to his untap step, or his next draw step, and draw Teferi anyway. This lets him see one less card to start. And it's possible I just reforge the Soul here. A lot of the cards in my hand don't do much, and if I can get him to discard his Teferi, there's a lot less pressure on me. Yeah, Reforge the Soul is actually looking pretty decent here. I could even Reforge during upkeep. So you draw a card and discard it. I actually really like that. It's probably too cute, but I really like it. Yeah, he's going to have 3 mana. I'm definitely putting it on top with Jace. We'll see how I time it, though. So he's untapping 2 lands, 7 cards in hand, one of which is a Teferi. I'm ahead on lands, and I have an active Jace. This does feel like a moment for Reforge if there is ever a moment for it. So let's go ahead and brainstorm. He also didn't untap Field of Ruin, which seems like a mistake. Oh, Delver makes that even better. So I'd prefer to get rid of Devastation Tide. He doesn't have a lot of permanence, and then Reforge the Soul. So that's going to be Reforge second, Devastation first. Then I get to play Delver of Secrets. Delver of Secrets. And then we'll see if he's got the path. I can always opt into not using the path, but stop on opponent's turn. Oh, he's doing something here. Yeah, so let's put a stop. So he gets to draw with opt, and now I'm going to opt. Put this on bottom because I don't want to see it. Oh my gosh, that was a punt. Oh well, we could try it next turn. I'd already drawn a card. Supreme Verdict is fine. Might even be hitting a point I want to plus with Jace, although we're getting the card advantage here, so that might not be correct. Alright, so Reforge the Soul, Temporal Mastery, play my land. During the upkeep, I'm taking my additional turn. Basically just a counter check for the Reforge the Soul on my turn. This deck is taking a little bit to figure out, so I apologize if I'm making play mistakes or not describing my lines correctly. But it's a little unique. I haven't played a deck like this before. Alright, so opponent's probably going to Teferi here. Gonna vanish him again. So unfortunately he's going to have 4 mana for this Reforge the Soul, so he could potentially Cryptic it. And I don't really need to Lightning Bolt, so not going to worry too much about using that. I'd rather see 7 cards and do something with my mana at that point. Alright, so opponent has gas again. I'm going to put Temporal Mastery back on top of my deck, expecting him to make it shuffle with Field of Ruin when he untaps, and I can draw a Street Wraith. And then I want to get my Cyclops out. Assuming he's got Path, it's very unlikely he doesn't have Path. He's probably also got a Terminus in hand, which he can just hard cast, but this is going to force him to interact with it, which means that I'll likely get my extra turn. Snapcaster going for Path. Makes sense. Oh, I automatically hit yes. Alright, well, that's a punt. Oh, I did cast my extra turn spell. Okay, well, guess still got a little action here then. Devastation Tide is looking interesting. I'm going to put that on top with the intent to be able to opt it away. I think opponent forgot I had an extra turn like I did. Otherwise he would have waited on the Snapcaster. Terminus. So I can pick everything back up. That'd put opponent on Snapcaster. I'm eventually going to win with Thunderous Blast here, so I kind of don't care about what's currently out. Plus, I still have an active J, so any hard-casting Terminus is just going to benefit me more. And then I don't want to draw Devastation Tide, so I got to put that to bottom. There's my Thunderous Wrath. Basically just a counter check for opponent at this point. I'd like to be able to shuffle because I have a lot of basic lands I don't intend on using, so I'm going to put out the fetch land. Another reason it's probably worthwhile for me to have more fetch lands in this deck, because I do actually want to utilize Jace to his fullest extent. And then we're going to see if opponent's going to path me here, basically shuffle my deck for me. If not, I need to make sure to crack the Scalding Tarn. And if opponent cracks another fetch land, then this bolt's going to be lethal. Most awkward burn deck ever. Alright, gonna grab a mountain just because we haven't seen one yet. And then, in case we see Thunderous Wrath, I want to cycle here. We can still full cost it, but we have plenty of miracles that we could look at, so... Would love to reveal Lightning Bolt. Opponent's going to try to make us Field of Ruin it away because they're at a low life total. Potentially Path. Path is probably going to be more effective as it also gets rid of the creature. Or opponent might just be on blanks here. So, getting Scalding Tarn down. With 2 bolts in hand, really pressuring opponent here. We've also gotten through a lot of our deck. It might not be wrong to have a single thing to shuffle stuff back in. Okay, he wants to draw. Let's see if we can just burn him out. Alright, so opponent's on double Cryptic and doesn't seem to care about Jace. I'm a little inclined to just reforge the soul here. So putting Delver out just that we have another threat. Oh. Yeah, so Temporal Mastery on top, hardcast Thunderous Wrath, and opponent is super dead. Alright, control matchup. Ral comes in, that's why he's there. Ricochet Trap also comes in, also why it's there. Mindbreak Trap against this style, I know we're going to be having counter wars. There is consideration for this, but it's really hard to do anything with the Mindbreak Trap on attacking with the Erratic Cyclops. Mindbreak Trap is more in here for Storm, although it's not super effective against Storm if they have Remand. Ravenous Trap, they are on Snapcaster. They're not going to be dumping a lot of cards into their graveyard, though. Blood Moon is always a consideration for Colonnades. I didn't see very many of them. I think what we have so far is pretty good. The last blue-white control list ended up on the Angel plan, so the Devastation Tides and Bonfires were going to be better. I think they're cuts in this matchup. The other one was also on the old Wall of Omens Resto Attrition plan, and that's a little out of date. This looks a little bit more stock with Terminus in it. Delver's pretty good. Bolt can pressure Jace. Jace is good. Vanishment will grab their Planeswalkers. Street Race still enable us. Again, not super stoked on the Reforge the Soul plan. It worked out by bouncing Teferi and then making them discard it. Teferi is probably one of the cards we're most afraid of in this matchup, but that still seems a little fringe, especially considering Bonfire can snag it. It's probably Bonfire or Reforge, and Reforge just gives them more counter gas and puts more things into their graveyard for Snapcaster. As far as the last cut, they've got creature removal for the Cyclops and Delver. We don't really care about our life total. Street Wraith is probably the best cantrip that we have. It might just be a land. This is going to go long, and we've been having some mana issues. Have a good one, Kyle. Thanks for stopping by. Let's see. What does this do? Not a whole lot, but it has a Jace. Our opponent's not going to pressure us very quickly, so I'm okay to see where it goes. Again, I don't believe this deck mulligans very well, and we don't have any of the miracles at our opening hand, so that's basically getting a pass for me tonight. That's probably not correct, but it's my current train of thought on it. Alright, so let's go ahead and put out the Scalding Tarn, and we're going to pass until our opponent does something. It's very possible we want to use the Ricochet Trap. Ricochet Trap does feel a little bit better. Oh, no, it won't unless it's draw. We can use Ricochet Trap to counter Cryptic Command if they opt into the draw clause of it. Alright, so I'm going to grab a basic, since we have a lot of fixing here, and cycle Street Wraith, hoping to hit one of our 2-mana miracles. It might have been better sequencing to cycle Street Wraith, and then if we hit a 2-mana miracle, go grab a basic, otherwise get another Steam Vents. Yeah, that would have been way better, because then we could have up Ricochet Trap off of this as well. But if they counter Thunderous Wrath, perfectly okay with that. It just means it's more likely that Jace resolves. Opponent just lets it go. Alright, so same concept. I'm going to be running out the Scalding Tarn. I actually really need to make sure to get red this time. Even if I did need to get a basic last time around, a Mountain would have been better for the Ricochet Trap. We already had a basic and another blue source in hand. Also, another random thing, since we are running the Blood Moons in the sideboard, that's why we're so heavily skewed to islands instead of mountains. Want to make sure that we can actually hit our blue sources. Alright. Not what you really want to see. Opponent is definitely representing Cryptic. I'd rather wait until we have Ricochet Trap up in case they're on the negate plan. Oh, I should have cracked the Scalding Tarn. That was a mistake. Oh well. We still have plenty of fetchable lands. So just to review, Ricochet Trap is if an opponent casts a blue spell this turn, I may pay red to change the target with a single target. Hieroglyphic Illumination is just draw 2 cards, not target player draws 2 cards. So I couldn't do anything about that. Opponent's not really fearing the Blood Moon. I haven't really given them a reason to, though. With 5 mana up, I'm reading... I want to say I'm reading Restoration Angel, but that's not correct. Opponent is probably just holding Cryptic. I kind of want to get into the counter war now over Jace, because I only have one piece of interaction, which means if they go to Cryptic with the draw, as opposed to bouncing a land, I can counter it, and then I have an active Jace. And I'm really hoping that they're not prepped for the counter war, so I am going to counter this. It's very possible we lose because of this. So they let it resolve. What's happening is I'm going to make Mana Leak target Ricochet Trap. Ricochet Trap is going to resolve. Mana Leak was targeting Ricochet Trap, so it's countered by game rules since its target is gone. And opponent didn't quite know how to resolve that, so they waited to counter. Yep, that's fine. So I'm expecting the opponent to be more prepared than we are now. But if they just jam a Teferi and we double bolt it, we might have a game still in front of us. Instead, we just keep drawing lands. We do have a lot of random gas in our deck to top deck, but I think our opponent's deck is a little bit better suited for the long game. Especially if we just keep drawing lands. Probably Field of Ruin here. It's correct to float mana. I am not expecting to do anything with the mana yet. I do think this is going to be better served to hit Jace or Teferi. And oddly enough, all the random burn spells in our deck are actually pressuring our opponent. I think now I actually do want to hold 2 lands in hand for Jace. It was probably incorrect to run out all three of our 4 steam vents. Your Scalding Tarns. We just kept drawing lands, but the Scalding Tarns allow us to fetch, which is not irrelevant. Ooh, Azcanta is probably going to be the game for us. The card advantage of this flipped is going to be significantly too high. And we keep drawing lands. Alright. Azcanta is really making me reconsider Blood Moon. Just because it's one of our few ways to interact with this. Vanishment could also hit it. But it's flipping here, and then we're going to fall very far behind. Because we do have so many random basics, Field of Ruin probably isn't something to just dismiss for this deck. And more lands. Alright, so Opponent believes we're going to draw go. He probably expected us to bring in negates and some number of interaction for counter decks. It's really just the 4 ricochet traps, though. And then before he goes too far off, I'm going to try to resolve one of these lightning bolts at him. Then that way, if we get a Thunderous Wrath, we can wait for ideal timing and then just pop him in the face for game. It's probably going to be the only way we steal this. I mean, catching Opt off of Escanta wasn't the best for him, but... he's gotten through half of his deck at this point. Reforge the Soul is looking a little more interesting as an alternate win condition. They're going to get pretty low on life, and a lot of times they do the Teferi tuck, where they just continuously put Teferi on top of their deck so that they can't mill out. Gain 6 life. Not great. Opponent has a stocked hand. Discarding Terminus. Alright. Let's see if this resolves. If it doesn't, it's probably game here. They're just seeing so many more cards than us. And draw step. Having some serious struggles with that. I do want to see one more draw step. Jace is fine. Okay, so he's not respecting the lightning bolt here, which means he either has a second Jace or he just doesn't expect us to have anymore. I'm not going to show him that we're holding one unless we absolutely have to here. I want to see our draw step and we're likely conceding, so just letting him know that he has to plus Jace is not the best use of information. We can try to conceal it as much as possible. They know we have them, but they don't know how many. And yet another land. Alright. So this time going for the Reforge the Soul, I do believe that's a little bit more correct. Looking at Blood Moon, Reforge the Soul is probably over Bonfire, the Damned. Bonfire actually would have been pretty good there, but they had 7 cards in hand, so it likely meant nothing. Mindbreak Trap is likely going to be in more Counter Wars, but we just don't have the resources to start that fight. Vanishment probably losing a little effectiveness here. I still like it, but it's one of our few ways to get rid of a Planeswalker without just burning it out. Yeah, it might be correct. The consideration being Escanta over Blood Moon. 2 Blood Moons is probably fine if it's just for Escanta and Colonnade. We might need to be aggressively mulliganing for an... We should be mulliganing for an aggressive hand so that they actually have to have the answers to like a turn 1 Delver. Alright, so Vanishment, Bonfire, Bolt. These are 5 considerables over... Yeah, I think that's just it. This feels like such a tough matchup. It's a little sad that we had to face it twice. Currently 1-1 in this match. So we've gotten to at least game 3 in every single game. They haven't felt unwinnable. The control did feel a little miserable just because they're drawing so many cards and we're counting on impactful draws with the no way of filtering. Plus a lot of our targeted damage is just going to the face, and that's not the best use of a spell. That's about on par with gaining life just to gain life. Okay, so I have 2 redraws and a Delver. This seems fine. I'd prefer to see a second land over another Cycler, but getting the aggressive start is exactly what this deck needs, and it's very possible that our opponent fixes us with a Path to Exile. I want a 3/2 Delver, despite not being able to cast that. I think that's what I want to do. And then Street Wraith is better on the opponent's turns for when we don't have lands, so looks like we're doing both. And looks like this is going to be a very painful loss. I know there have been complaints about Arena having a really bad shuffler, but it looks like MTGO might be snagging as well. Alright, so get in for 3. And then if opponent has Turbinus, we are kind of screwed here. If they have Path and we draw a land in Blood Moon, we would have had a little bit of a shot. Not revealing Island. Opponent desperately looking for Turbinus. So it's possible they have the Path, but because we've been stuck on lands, they don't want to actually use it. But getting this pressure down means that we can still top deck 2 Thunderous Wraths, assuming we get red mana, or we can just cast the ones in our hand and end the game. This is a little bit more of what our deck wanted to do. I think the Delvers are a little bit more integral to the plan than I wanted to initially admit. And I'm going to reveal the Bolt. Still not being able to cast it is unfortunate, but we're getting a Cryptic Tap. Opponent's trying really hard to stay alive. They're getting very close to being able to activate Colonnade and block with it, and that's going to be a bit of a downer for us. Alright. To be honest, that's fine. I'm probably going to be burning out our opponent from here. Alright, well that's just a redraw. Potentially counter check. Yep, opponent has Logic Knot, potentially Mana Leak, they showed us both. More fetch lands over islands would mean that we're more likely to be able to play the cards that we draw. I think opponent probably should have gone Fate Seal mode there. See if they can keep us off lands long enough to really punish us. This is falling away from us, but they could be making sure that we can't do anything with the cards that we draw. We're already close to discarding to hand size. Alright, so they likely have Mana Leak, more than likely negate. I can try to Bolt Jace, or I can slam Blood Moon. All of our future non-basics are basically mountains anyway. Yeah, they know we have Bolt. I'm just going to go for the Bolt. Yep, there's the Mana Leak. This also means that a top deck Thunderous Wrath can kill Jace, though. Opponent is currently on Fate Seal plan. They should have just started with that. They did have the Mana Leak, so I guess that's fine, but that still seems a little loose. Okay, Vidillion Click. What does that mean for me? Probably nothing. I can opt looking for a land. That actually is probably the best thing I can do. Yep, there's the land. The opponent actually gave us that opt. Again, that feels loose. Because that gave me the ability to recycle the opt, as opposed to just using the Vendilion Clique on a turn that you have to put something on bottom. And this is another way to cover the Fate Seal. Opponent correctly leaves everything. And they know about the Ricochet trap, so I'm just going to slam a Blood Moon. It's going to make their mana base a little trickier if they don't counter this. Yep, again, opponent had to spend a card. I think opponent's playing this a little loosely. I mean, if they have a ton of answers, they have a ton of answers, but they have powerful cards on the field. And I'm going to Reforge the Soul just because I can. They probably have another answer for this, given the fact that they have 3 cards in hand, but... Yep. This is probably where I need to concede, but I do have several things I can draw into. The top of this deck is a lot of miracles with a lot of powerful effects, which makes it harder to just be like, I don't have anything that I can do here. Opponent again giving us more mana for their turn seems a little loose. Okay, so if they do have another answer, we're basically out of this. We're looking to top deck something to hit Jace. And opponent gets to actually look at it first. They gave us a card. Oddly enough, lands are pretty good for us. We are at top deck and answer, but lands are still pretty decent for us. I guess they know our hand. But like another land would mean Thunderous Wrath is just hard castable. And all these cards in our hand, if Jace ultimates, are going to become our library, which are just a bunch of miracles. Yep, okay, that's actually game. I didn't see that. GG's opponent. Alright, so control does feel pretty bad. We're a little too reliant on the fact that the top of our deck is good to deal with the fact that opponent can just hold up interaction for us. Having a little bit more of the tempo play in Delver seems like it would be quite helpful. It's curious if actually doing something along the lines of Death's Shadow in this deck is correct. Because Death's Shadow would just come down and be a threat, and you could cycle your life away to draw. Something to think about. I believe we beat our Death Shadow opponent. What was this guy on? I'm already forgetting what we played. The stream's gone on a lot longer than previous ones. So this is our blue-white opponent. Then this is our Death Shadow. We beat Dredge. And then lost again to blue-white. But we put up a fight in all of these. Erratic Cyclops costing 4 mana is just one too much. If it was a 0/6 and was 3 mana, it would be borderline playable and might actually make this deck potentially useful. It wouldn't be good, but it's still like a 3 mana threat, especially with something like Coco, being able to Coco into 2 of those with I guess Coco and non-creatures is counterproductive. The other miracles I was looking at were Banishing Stroke. Let me see if I can just pull them up. So you can look into green, but a lot of them are buff target creature, which requires something on the battlefield already. The Banishing Stroke actually could be quite good as just a single target terminus, but going into white with Miracle seemed like it wouldn't quite accurately display what we were going towards, plus there were plenty in the Izzet category. Oh, I put it up, but you guys didn't see it. We're in our next match. This is the Banishing Stroke. Put target artifact, creature, enchantment on the bottom of its owner's library for white. At 6 mana, that seems quite good. As far as this hand, I have a lot of 4 drops. We are on the play. I think I'm going to mulligan looking for a Delver. Yeah, this is significantly better. I believe knowing how to actually mulligan with this deck would also help our record. We've kept some really iffy hands that were actually alright. Alright, so opponent is on Llanowar, which means Elves, Elf Ball, Budget, Coco list. Couple of different options. Not going to reveal a Scalding Tarn, which I scried to the top like an idiot. Alright, some struggles today. And I do not want to trade my Delver for their Llanowar Elves. I believe our Delver's going to do more long-term. I should have cycled the Street Wraith before our upkeep step for Delver. Playing a little loose tonight. So they are on Elves with Cavern. That means that this is not budget. This is probably going to be an Archdruid, which it is. So again, it feels like the correct way to do this is actually Street Wraith. See if we get a Miracle, and then go get whatever land we need for the Miracle. Not going to reveal Street Wraith there. Delver's not doing anything, so Street Wraith's going to hit a 2-drop. If it does anything, do not need to pay life here. Heritage Druid means that they have a lot of mana. 5. That's going to be 8. If this is a Crater Hoof, we're pretty much just dead. Reveal the top 4 cards. Elves go into hand, rest go in the bottom. That's fine. What set is that from? I know it was originally an Onslaught. 4 revealed cards, another Messenger, Dwynen's Elite, Clan Caller, and Elf. Ooh, boy. Alright, so tap for 3 mana, Clan Caller, Elf, tap for 3 mana, Dwynen's Elite. Probably going to Sylvan Messenger first, see if they can find another Dwynen's Elite. These 3 are going to tap for 3 more. Alright. And some struggles with flipping. I will reveal Opt. So currently looking at 4, 6, 8, 11, 14, 16 damage. I think I can keep Insectile Aberration back as a bluff blocker. The Clan Caller is going to come down though, and I'm going to have to look for a Bonfire for 2 with that on the stack. So Dwynen's Elite came down. This is going to be another Messenger. There's a Nettle Sentinel, which means that every Heritage Druid's going to net an additional mana. Okay, so that's the clan caller. Gonna look for the opt here. Basically just a single out. That's gonna kill us, so... And GG's, opponent. Alright. Elf Ball. Mindbreak Trap seems decent. It only snag one thing, though. They're going to cast multiple spells a turn, and then I can grab whatever thing I care about most. Lightning Bolt comes in for more spot removal. This is where I kind of wish I had Bonfires in the sideboard. Thunderous Wrath seems a little loose. Devastation Tide, they can empty their hand faster than I can. Vanishment, there's not as many impactful cards. Rao can ping a problem, but on turn 5 that's too slow. It might just be a Mindbreak Trap, so I can try to steal a Lord. Or a Messenger. Ricochet Trap's not going to do anything. Yeah, this might be on our rougher end of matchups. Alright, this is turn 1 Delver, potential Street Wraith into Miracle, and all spells a Hail Mary Devastation Tide. I think I'd prefer some early game removal, but yeah, we can't have it all. And when they kill us, they're going to kill us with a giant smack, but still going to try not to use life wherever I can. Not revealing Island. Play Sulphur Falls. And I'm actually going to offer the trade this time around. Delver taking away their ramp and slowing them down for a turn actually seems a little relevant when we can hardcast our miracles. Heritage Druid is fine. I do want to get rid of it if I can, though. I will reveal Thunderous Wrath and take out your Heritage Druid. Not revealing Street Wraith. Again, no 2-mana miracles I care about, so go ahead and chip in. I'm not sure if it's correct to try to just Street Wraith here to get rid of their mana, or if I want to try to wait for a bigger effect at instep. I guess Bonfire is going to be the best that I can do with just Llanowar Elves out. Another Archdruid. Devastation Tide would also be pretty good there, but I already had one in hand, which means I have 3 in the deck versus... Wow. Getting a Thunderous Wrath or... I don't know. I could have probably done the math and crunched it. Leading on Scalding Tarn here so I can use the Delver's Knowledge to try to get a better miracle on our upkeep. Kind of don't care if it flips at this point. Just want to see a miracle. If we don't have one, we can crack. If we see another Lord, it's going to start getting pretty hard to do anything productive, though. Twin Enzy lead, Nettle Sentinel actually don't do a whole lot. They've run out of mana for the turn. Alright, I would love to... I don't need to reveal it to Delver, I just need to cast it for its miracle cost. Alright, then run out Basic Island, run out Delver. Still have Scalding Tarn to get a better miracle. Opponent with 12 cards in hand. 2 lands means we're probably going to see a Llanowar Elves here and then discard 4 cards to hand size. Seems pretty good. Rex Sage. I know a lot of decks play that as a 1-of in the main board, but I thought they boarded it out if they didn't think there was a target for it. They might have thought we were on Death Shadow? Maybe they just didn't have anything to bring in. They are trying to combo harder than us. And that is just an L for 3. Given the speed they discarded that compared to the other 3, though, they must have known that it's not going to have much use here. Dwinen's Elite. That's a pretty good one. Sylvan Messenger didn't need any other cards in hand at the current moment. Oh, I misclicked the wrong button. Didn't mean to reveal that, but that's fine. Let's see if they'll trade with the Delver now. Highly unlikely. They're going to be able to play multiple things next turn, catch up. Or just the Archdruid. I guess that is their more explosive start. Okay, not revealing Erratic Cyclops. I need to put a stop and upkeep. I knew that. Alright, it might be getting a little late for me to be playing this. So I want to run out Cyclops and pass turn and hopefully not die. I don't think they can kill me. They'd need to have basically a Heritage Druid and 2 Nettle Sentinels. I know they have 1. Or just explode pretty hard and get a Crater Hoof. But I can block a lot with these Cyclops if it comes to it. Alright, so now let's see if they got their Heritage Druid. Because if I have to hard cast this, that's 5, 6, 7. I wouldn't be able to even if I drew a land. Given the fact that they're stumbling on lands, though, this is definitely going to get cast next turn if I don't see another... So I need to stop on my turn if I don't see another miracle here. Okay, that's a good one. So, revealing Bonfire of the Damned. Yes, we're going to cast it. Targeting you. And I should have cracked my fetch, but that's fine. Hitting for 5. And these are 11s. Opponent's very dead. Okay, so I'm starting to feel like this needs to be a 4 of Bonfire in this deck. It's very good, and at the very least it's a dump into the Cyclops to become lethal. And there just seem like there are plenty of matchups where I want this. Humans and Merfolk and Spirits. Spirits is probably going to be a little bit on the rougher side, but still going to be a good card. That is keepable. I have a Bolt for their turn 1 play, and then opt into hopefully something better. Alright, so Neuroroot Trapper is the worst in their deck. It does give them Death Touch, but as far as mana dorks go, it is the worst, which means they're either holding that for a land war here, or they're just hoping to get a little bit more ramp out of it, and they had an anemic draw. So they get to go get a basic and put it into hand, that's fine. Getting a swamp. Sulphur Falls gives us the most colors here. We've been having some issues with that, mainly bad sequencing, but again, I'm not really superly familiar with this deck, and there's a lot of potential things to anticipate. Right now, our current play is Street Wraith into hopefully Miracle, so we can try to find a Tide or Bonfire for once. Not really going to do it, but if we see it, we'll cast it. Alright, a little bit rough there. Don't have a Delver or Jace, but gonna hang on to the Scalding Tarns. I have learned my lesson there. We have 3 mana, which means opt into Miracle. I'm okay to take 4 unless we see a Lord. Messenger's fine. Izzet is a bad one. Lets them regenerate. Alright, well, gonna go ahead and try to find a Miracle. Nope. Nope. Alright, so currently taking 6. Izzet doesn't actually Lord, so I think we have one more turn. Not looking great, though. Even hard casting Thunderous Wrath here is not going to do much for us. So if this is a Zuri, that means that they... Nope, Archdruid. Okay, so 10. We go to 3. Alright, well, that's at least a redraw. And I can't shock, but given the fact that we're losing, gonna try to increase our odds as much as possible. And Delver doesn't do it, so let's go ahead and take the honorable way out. GG's opponent. Alright, so I actually feel like there's a decent amount to say about this one. So going back to the deck here, we ended up 1 and 4. We lost against blue-white twice, and that does feel like a horrible matchup. The 2 Rals in the sideboard just weren't enough for that. They end up getting card selection and card draw, and we are kind of just pseudo-filtering. We're cantripping a little bit. Probably going to be better with Think Twice or Radical Idea. And our deck somewhere, there's not a lot of space because of the number of miracles that we're playing with, but being able to trigger that extra draw step or discard a land and draw a card feels like it will give a lot of power to this. We really need to be drawing on both our turn and our opponents. Another card that I was really considering tossing in here was going to be Jace Vryn's Prodigy. So what he does is, I'm going to go ahead and switch it on back to screen. He lets us draw instant speed. He gives us the ability to cast something from graveyard if we need to when we transform him. And that can be our bolts, that can be our ops, it would be a sorcery speed opt, but it'd still let us actually do something. But the most important part here is actually the draw a card at instant speed. It would give us the ability to fog a combat step and actually buy us a little bit of time if we're getting attacked by a Death Shadow or a fish. Being able to block, draw, discard, flip them around, just fog that 5 damage, potentially more, feels very powerful, especially because it's triggering an additional draw on our opponent's step. The problem with that, though, is we can't really control when he transforms. It's actually if you just have 5 or more cards in your graveyard. So he didn't make the cut, but that does feel like something we should be considering here, is like a Merfolk Looter. Like even just a Merfolk Looter over Jace would probably be quite powerful to just draw a discard, filter out our mana base, let us actually do some stuff. The Bonfire of the Damned was very good, probably just needs to be a 4 of. Altogether, though, it feels like it's just missing something. One or two more cards, and this deck does a whole lot. It feels like Sensei's Divining Top would be really good in this deck. It wouldn't necessarily be trying to stack your blue-white control lists like it did in Legacy, but allow you to draw instant speed, look at the top three, stagger if you need the extra turn, the 5 damage, the return all permanents. When you return all permanents, you could tap the Sensei's Divining Top to get the draw, like completely cheese it out. But aside from that, like more fetch lands, the fetch lands to flip Delver. Delver felt like a fantastic addition to this deck. Being able to look at our top card and filter what we're drawing for the turn was very powerful. We also needed a tempo place that if we did stumble a little bit and not actually have the right miracles at the right time, then we're still applying pressure to our opponent and they just don't have time to build up a defense. That might be a little biased because we played 2 control matchups though. Bonfire, again, would have been great against Dredge, would have been great against Elves. There's a lot of tools here, and these are all cards that can do a lot on their own, but the fact that you have to manipulate your deck makes it a little bit harder, and it does feel like that piece is gone. Erratic Cyclops is a pale comparison to Vile Smasher. Erratic Cyclops requires you to actually attack with him, which didn't seem that bad. There are a lot of paths to exile that snagged him. The 4 mana was very hard to cast. Being able to play out Vile Smasher and then protect him with a 5 mana Force of Will that also hit your opponent for 5 was just, it's what made the deck work in Legacy. That Vile Smasher deck is also not really competitive. It's on the fringe, so this is probably in a similar position, but if there are new changes to the Vile Smasher deck, there could be something fun with this one. As far as our miracles go, Vanishment actually did perform pretty well. It needed to be a little more permanent, though. The things we cared about were the Teferi, and he just came back. The Jace was an all-star, but we were drawing a lot of cards and stacking our deck, but our blue-white opponent was just keeping up with us. They had just as many cards in hand. Delver also helps when we take an extra turn to just get another 3 damage in. Thunderous Wrath was able to just ping people for 5, 10 damage, did so much. It was really good, but burning someone out from 20, even in chunks of 5, is quite hard to pull off. The Reforge the Soul was interesting. I don't know how much I like that. If I was on the Reforge plan and I knew I was having long games, having something like a Kozilek to draw cards and shuffle back in seemed quite good, but there are pieces here. Mindbreak Trap, probably not correct. Again, it was in there for Storm, but it doesn't do a whole lot against Storm when they're on the remand plan. Ravenous Trap did fantastic work against Dredge. We only saw the 1, though. Having those 0 CMC alternate casting costs made me kind of picture mission briefing being part of this, but the primary game plan was miracles, and the traps themselves aren't that powerful. They were all sideboard tech. Almost every one of them requires a color or a very specific set of actions that don't really happen all that often in Modern. But yeah, I had fun playing this deck, and there were a lot of lines I didn't even remotely consider. It's kind of like the Goryo's Vengeance deck, where it's like, if you know the deck and you play it inside and out, you probably know a lot more lines, but there's also just a ton of new ones that you can just continue to find. Just for that extra piece, it needs to be like tempo and control your deck. Like Delver of Secrets 5 through 8, and I'm on board. Cyclops probably comes out, and you probably go a little bit more just blue-red burn. Have the Lightning Bolts, Thunderous Wraths. Street Wraith could probably be a better cantrip, but being able to get a miracle on turn 2 was the dream. The Scribe from Opt is just a little more tuned for what it's trying to do, but I had fun with this deck. I actually could see trying to brew with it again and trying to figure out what I did wrong. Oh well, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a good one.